Call in by clicking the link in the stream's description. The professor wants to hear from you.
Beginnings on the cusp. Not too old to adjust. Old dog, new tricks. Remember, I was just a pup. Something dirty in my cup. Clean soul, good karma.
Yeah. Woo! Woke up with a vision, it's Professor Bear's day. Ruling the game, coming hard, paving his way. Thoughtful and smart, yeah, the wisdom of math. In a world full of shadows, he's breaking the cast.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining me. I am Professor Bear, and this is a Bear's Thought. And today, the subject that we will be discussing is one of my favorite things in wrestling, period. It's tag team wrestling. And the thing about tag team wrestling that makes Professor such a happy bear is the cohesiveness of a tag team, whether it's to get that finishing move or just go for the double team or using pure psychology into whipping their opponents or being able to do things without even talking to a tag team partner. I mean, tag team wrestling is what really caught my attention as a kid, and to this day is one of my favorite elements in pro wrestling. So today we're definitely going to go over some of my greatest tag teams that I enjoyed. And what I need from you is to call in and tell me your tag teams that you like. Let's have a discussion on why you think a particular team is the greatest tag team or one of the best tag teams in wrestling history. But before we begin that, I have to start off by giving a shout out to the Wrestling Society Network. Hey, you can join us on Facebook, on YouTube, join us on our app. Yes, we have an app. If you don't know about the app by now, what's going on with you? Go on and join, get on the app. You will get to see so many different things. We have documentaries, we have game shows, we have bios, we have the series Heels. Yes, we do. Here at WSN, we have the I was about to call it the Bella Twins, which we do, and then we have Total Divas. So man, what are you waiting for? On top of that, all of this is free. Again, I say free. And also go on to our website, thewrestlingsociety.com, and sign up. It's also free. And you get to see so many different aspects of what we love about wrestling. We have independent promotions. We have indie wrestler of the week. We have so much more. And you can also watch our app on the web page. So, man, what are you waiting on? But let's get started on some of the greatest tag teams in wrestling history. So when you talk tag team, immediately one of the greatest tag team that always come to mind first are the Mighty Road Warriors, Hawk, Animal, and Precious Paul Ellering, their manager. Man, the Road Warriors took tag team wrestling to a whole different level when they got in the game. They are the only tag team in history to have won the AWA World Tag Team Championship, the NWA World Tag Team Championship, and the WWF World Tag Team Championships. They are so synonymous with it. When you have a great pop, it is known as the Road Warriors pop, because anywhere they went, no matter who they faced, they always got a standing ovation, and they were just synonymous with tag teams. They came out and generally dominated a team. They hit the ring with such ferocity and force that generally most tag teams couldn't recover after 2 minutes of the onslaught. The Road Warriors were not the first, but the biggest name with painting your face. After the Road Warriors, it seemed like everybody wanted to paint their face there. You have Sting, the Ultimate Warrior, the Great Kabuki. You got the Great Muta, and it's so on and so on. What's going on, Rusty? So, again, they by far will go down as one of the greatest tag teams in wrestling history. And mentioning some of the teams that they feuded with, the Russians, Ivan and Nikita Koloff, and Khrushchev. They took on the Powers of Pain. They took on the Horsemen. They took on the Hart Foundation. They took on Demolition. They took on the who's who of tag team wrestling. They took on the New Age Outlaws. They took on the Steiner Brothers. They took on Harlem Heat. They took on Luger and Sting. And you could go on and on, the Nasty Boys. If you wanted to prove yourself in the wrestling business, you wanted to go up against the Road Warriors. So now we're going to talk about another tag team that is one of my personal favorites, and just edging out the Road Warriors as my favorite team ever is Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, members of the Four Horsemen. And what made Arn and Tully just so different than a lot of tag teams is they knew each other's move sets. They knew. They didn't have to look at each other. They just had this crazy way of knowing where his partner was going to be. They knew when they were in trouble. They knew how to get that psychology. They could either man could break you down. They were great peer wrestlers, but they could also brawl. You could any tag team they could match up against. We look at the Twin Towers of Lex Luger and Barry Windham. Look at the Midnight Express. They took on the Rock and Roll Express. You name it, they took him on. They beat I think it was Demolition. I may be wrong on that one. They faced Demolition. Definitely. They faced the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. They took on just a who's who of wrestling tag teams. And also, Arn and Tully was the very first tag team that ever won the NWA World Tag Team titles and the WWF World Tag Team titles, which was unheard of back in those days because it just simply, you were not going to get over in different promotions like they did. It was just incredible of what Arn and Tully accomplished in the short period of time they were tag team. And don't get me wrong, because if singles, Tully was the national champion, the US champion. Arn was the world television champion, the national champion. They could do it singly or as a tag team. They were just the cohesive team that you had to come with a serious game plan before you could beat these gentlemen, because they brought it every night. Again, members of the Horsemen, you knew they were great. So from there, we're going to talk about another tag team that I just mentioned. One of the great tag teams that are still going today. After so many years, after 40 plus years of wrestling, they're still doing it to this day. And that is Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson, the Rock and Roll Express. They are now, depending on the way you look at history, they are 7 times NWA World Tag Team Champions. And we're going to get back to Ricky and Robert, but let's go to this caller. Mr. Producer, if you would. Rusty, how you doing, my friend?
Doing well. I'm sitting here listening to you talk about all these tag teams. And the Road Warriors, Arn and Tully, now the Rocky Morton there. Midnight Express, or I think that's what you said. I keep forgetting their name. Rock and Roll Express, okay. Really, I think you should be able to have to divide it in between eras. The reason why I say that, because like I said, the Dudley Boys, they're 24-time tag team champions. Correct. all across wrestling. There wasn't all of that all across wrestling back in the day.
Correct. And that's why I'm mentioning, when I bring up a tag team, I try to talk about what they accomplished in their time and era, because like you just said, eras are way different, where teams didn't get to go to territories together, or like I said, with Arn and Tully, when they went to the WWF and actually had a chance, that was really unheard of at that time. And even the Road Warriors they only had won the AWA titles before Arn and Tully won the WWF titles. Then they won the NWA, then finally got to go to WWF and won those titles. So a lot of them are different things. And like you said, in different eras, made each team different, and what I find special in them.
Because it's hard to determine, okay, who's the greatest tag team. Now, I don't know how much of Busted Open you listen to, but Dave LaGreca used to introduce Bully Ray as the best, greatest tag team wrestler. He goes, no, I'm the most decorated. I'm not the greatest. The Road Warriors are the greatest.
And again, and that's everybody's opinion. As far as decorated, of course, and gonna be bringing up the Dudley Boys later. There's a lot of tag teams that never got to the main stage and were great tag teams. Like one team that I was talking to my producer about earlier, that you rarely ever hear them mention, but were a great tag team together, is Robert Fuller and his cousin, Jimmy Golden. Jimmy Golden and Robert Fuller were a great tag team, and they won so many different. They won the Continental titles. They won the Mid-South, not Mid-South. I can't remember what Lawler's promotion was when they won it, but
Wasn't it just Memphis Wrestling?
No, I can't remember. It generally everybody just mentioned it as Memphis, but it was a CWA. That's what it was, the CWA. So a lot of people never got a chance to see them on how great of a tag team they are. So that's why I'm not trying to list them as here's the best, here's this. I'm just bringing up great tag teams that I enjoy and like to find out maybe it's a tag team that I didn't get a chance to see or hear about and can be brought up.
Yeah, I mean, because like I said, I don't think you can really come up with a top 10 greatest tag team list ever. It's just too broad of a spectrum.
Well, it's just like the top the Mount Rushmore of singles wrestlers. It's everybody has an opinion, so
yeah.
No one's right, but no one's wrong either. It's just in your eyes of what you see.
Yeah, because also Bully Ray was saying on NXT last night that they kept saying the Hardy Boys the greatest tag team, and he came on the show today and goes, no. When they win the IWGP titles, then yes, they might become the greatest tag team ever, but they have not won those titles, and we've done it twice.
Exactly. And again, it goes back to where you were in history, because I give you another tag team that a lot of people I guarantee, never even knew about, was Dusty Rhodes and dang. I hate when I go blank. Was the Outlaws, the Texas Outlaw, him and Dick Murdoch. They were a team in the 60s that were very, very good. Most people would never know that because everybody used to Dusty as a singles wrestler and as Dick as a single wrestler. But when they first started in the business, they were a tag team that were so great. And they were based out of the AWA.
Now, do you consider 6-man tag titles part of the tag team or no?
I would give them okay with that. I'm okay with that just because when I think of tag teams, they were a 6-man, but they wanted different groups. The Fabulous Freebirds. Let's just tell the truth about the Freebirds.
Freebird rule, baby.
The Freebirds made music in wrestling because Michael Hayes came up with that. Him, Terry Gordy, and Buddy, they were a great. They had the wrestler, they had the flamboyant one, they had the bully of the group. They were so good, and they created so much in wrestling where you have the Freebird rule. That's how the New Day became as great as they are, by using the Freebird rules.
No, the reason why I asked if you considered 6-man, because the NWA International 6-man was won by the Road Warriors and Dusty Rhodes quite several times. That's why I was asking.
Yeah, and when I look at tag teams, I can do 2 to 3. Anything over that is a group to me. If you have four, no, you're a group.
So, all right. Well, I just wanted to kind of get your opinion and see what would you consider the greatest, or if there was even, or if this just your opinion kind of deal.
It's just your opinion, because after everything, like I said, I myself, I rate the Road Warriors number 2, and that's weird for a lot of people, because I know a lot of people have heard me talk about how great the Road Warriors are, but in the short amount of time, I think Tully and Arn were the greatest. But again, it depends on how you look at things. What do you have to be a multi-champions?
What era you grew up in and stuff like that.
Right. And then like another tag team that I brought up earlier that a lot of people won't know about, because this was back in the day, was the Fabulous Kangaroos. Those were, yes. See, they were a great tag team, and they were based out the 60s and the 70s. And
so was that MJ's grandparents then? I've had to say a joke.
I mean, that was a good one. And like I said, there are just so many different tag teams, and like you said, the era where you grew up in. Us being Southern, I seen a lot of different Southern wrestlers that I thought were great tag teams. And if you look at decorated tag teams, well, hell, you could throw Lawler in there, because Lawler has won so many titles. Him and who was it? Bill Dundee. They were the AWA World Tag Team Champions at one point. They've won the CWA titles numerous of occasions. So again, it just depends on how you feel about it.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, I'll jump off here and keep listening. Have a good one.
All right. Appreciate you, Rusty.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Now, and please call in and give me your thoughts. And, you know, if you want to ask me a question, ask. Tell me about what area you grew up in, or who you think is the greatest tag team of all time. Again, it's all subjective. So you're not wrong and you're not right. Your opinion. So getting back to the Rock and Roll Express. I mean, anytime you bring up the Rock and Roll Express, you had to bring up the Midnight Express, one of the greatest tag team feuds of all time between Loverboy Dennis and Beautiful Bobby, or Beautiful Bobby and Stan Lane. Any set of group from the Midnight Express, they just ran wild and was such a great rivalry. The Midnight Express with Jim Cornette as the leader, or the original Midnight Express with Paulie Dangerously as their leader. And that was Dennis Cornette, it was Dennis and Randy Rose. That was another version of the Midnight Express. So again, with them two teams, it was just so much great action. But we'll get back to that. Let's talk to the caller on the line, Mr. Producer, if you will.
Well, if I will, you know, I hear Midnight Express, I come running. What's up, Bear?
What's going on, Joe?
And, you know, the fabulous cult leader, Jim Cornette, if I may say so. You're talking, sorry, I'm not on camera. I'm not really, you know, dressed in normal Joe Monroe fashion, but
no problem.
I will say that the Midnight Express, you talking about personal top, that's my top tag team. And yes, I grew up in the era with the Hardys, the Dudleys, Edge and Christian, that big feud, because that helped tag team wrestling as well. And I know you're going to get to them and later, but this right here, the rivalry they had with the Rock and Roll Express and everyone else, My goodness. I mean, do we have to talk about the scaffold match
Oh,
at Starrcade?
Oh man,
And Cornette literally injuring himself for the sake of the match, even though it was freaking hilarious. And little pop quick, I know Bear would know. If y'all know who the manager of the manager was, let me know. Actually, Bear, you can go ahead and tell him who that manager of the manager or bodyguard was at the time.
the bodyguard was Big Bubba Rogers, or he's more famously known as the Big Boss Man.
Exactly, the Big Boss Man, Big Bubba Rogers. Dang it, I need to get that figure. I need to quit talking about classic wrestling because I want to end up going broke. But by the way, sign the Midnight Express to another Legends deal so we can get some elites. I'm just saying.
Man, sign them and get them in the damn Hall of Fame. How are they not in the Hall of Fame? Is mind-boggling.
Yeah, any of them, whether it be Dennis and Bobby or Stan or Bobby. Or hell, Cornette's not even in. Well, I can see why Cornette's not really involved.
When they do the Midnight Express, they have to do all three of them.
With Cornette.
That's just my opinion.
They have to do it with Cornette too. So technically,
yes,
all four of them.
Definitely. And I mean, Cornette was their great mouthpiece. He could talk a fight to anybody. Oh man, some of the battles with him and Paulie Dangerously, aka Paul Heyman.
Midnight. That's the only time, rarely in history, that we've seen Jim Cornette as a babyface manager.
Yes.
And that right there is a great the match between oh man. I know if anybody has either a Blu-ray or DVD edition of Ladies and Gentlemen, My Name is Paul Heyman, that match is actually on there. Or you can just look it up on YouTube. I mean,
cool. I'm about to get that then. I saw that DVD, so now I'm gonna have to go back and get it.
But it's on one of the bonus features. You can watch that match. And I just watched it the other day, and I was like, this is great. That goes back to what we discussed. I'm going to do a little rant on modern wrestling for a minute, if you will. Back to basics. That they just did basic stuff, but they told a story. These tag teams, whether it be Midnight versus Midnight, Midnight Express versus Rock and Roll Express, Road Warriors versus whoever they want to beat the crap out of that night, or Dick Murdoch and Dusty Rhodes, the Outlaws, as you mentioned earlier. They just did basic wrestling, but they were entertaining at the same time.
Exactly. They know how to tell a story.
Right. And the only, yes, I'm jumping on this bandwagon. The only tag team that I can kind of see is FTR. That's like that now. But and the Briscoes. I would say the Briscoes too. But those would be about the only ones I could really think of. You know, Jay Briscoe's gone, so we can't really see that in action. But oh god, that tag team dog collar match. Oh, that brought back some territory feels. I'm sorry.
When I'm depressed and want to watch a great tag team match, I watch any three of their meet up. It was just great. The storytelling. What was great about it too was their delivery on the promos. The promos was, man, a lot of wrestlers don't understand how much you can use your promos to tell the story also. You can get an insight of what they are thinking, where they were going, what they wanted to do. And it was so tremendous because the Briscoe brothers wasn't allowed on AEW, so they cut promos on their YouTube page. Oh my God, they were beautiful.
The Terry Funk didn't wear no mouthpiece promo is probably one of the best promos that they done. Tad Funk ain't wearing no mouthpiece. No, Tad Funk don't wear no mouthpiece. Right. This good old boy's working on the chicken farm.
Exactly.
But we can all circle that back to tag teams like who you have up there, the Midnight Express, who, if I may say so, is holding the NWA tag team in the U.S. Tag Team Championships in that photo.
Now, with that being said, can you name the other tag team that it's only 2 tag teams that did that? Who was the other tag team that held both titles at the same time?
It wasn't Tully and Arn.
Nope.
Hang on, now you got me thinking, dadgummit.
You that should have been an easy one.
I know, but you got me thinking.
So I'm gonna give you a clue.
Oh, the Steiner Bros. That's
Yes,
Steiner Brothers.
sir.
The Steiner Brothers. Yep, you're right. You're right.
And
But-
I was gonna say, anybody who is listening to me, if you want to see a dominant tag team, go back and watch the Steiner Brothers. If you're impressed with Braun Breaker, go back and watch his father and uncle, how dominant they were as a tag team.
Absolutely. Like these guys were, well, like you said, they were freaking dominant. I think Braun Breaker is both of them put together, and that's what makes him a great singles wrestler.
Exactly. You can
When he
see both the styles in Braun.
Right.
'Cause
But
we-
when he first came in, a lot of people were probably like, "Oh, he's just a Steiner. He's not going to." No, he proved himself time and time again.
And I have to admit, I was one of those people. I was like, oh, yeah, here we go. Nepotism. He ain't worth it. Blah, blah, blah. And he made me eat my words, and I'm glad he did.
Oh yeah, me too. Especially that running spear he takes. Dear God Almighty, poor Steve.
What's crazy to me is the Frankensteiner off the top, where he just he
He
makes
salutes and says, "Bye bye."
exactly make Scott's look just like ridiculous.
Well, hopefully Scott doesn't hear that because he'll try to get back in the ring. I can do it better than him. Watch.
So hey,
But real quick, I'll give my top 5 and I'll get out of here. Top 5 tag teams: 1, Midnight Express, hands down. 2, the Hart Foundation. 3, a lot of people are probably going to say, "What are you smoking?" But I'm going to say the Hollywood Blondes. I know they didn't get enough of a run, but for what they did, in my list, they make top 3. Top 3. Number 4, Road Warriors. No doubt about it. Number 5, Briscoe Brothers.
man. Hey,
That's my top 5.
and you sit there and think about, again, it's everybody's preference, but in that top 5, think you left out FTR,
Yes.
you left out Edge and Christian,
Yep.
you left out the British Bulldogs.
Yep.
I mean, you left out the Rock and Roll. We could go on and on, and that's
at least, which is probably a shocker to all those people who know me.
and there's no disrespect to your list because all of them are great and understand why they're in your top 5. I mean, before Scott Steiner became the big booty daddy, Scott was ridiculously over.
Oh yeah.
He was
Especially
it's just sickening on what type of athlete Scott was before he got into creating his persona. Him, like I said, no matter where they went, they dominated. And the only reason why they didn't win the ECW tag team titles because they just did one-shot appearances in there 3 times, and that was it.
Yeah. They probably, well, I could go on about top 10, top 15, top 20. We'll save that for another day. But Bear, I'm going to hop off here. I want to let other people come in. It's good
All
talking
right.
to you, and you take care. Okay.
I appreciate you. Man, one of my greatest tag team matches of all time. I can to this day still go back and watch it and get the same feel that I got the first time that I watched it. Was the Steiner brothers versus Lex Luger and Sting at Super Brawl. That was one of the most hard-hitting tag team matches. And I was even okay with the finish of it, which Nikita Koloff interfered and cost Luger and Sting the match. But I was okay with it. One of the rare times you had a face tag team take on another face tag team, and the crowd was tore down the middle. Do yourself a favor and go watch that match. WCW Super Brawl. Super Brawl 1. I'm telling you, you will get a whole new respect on both tag teams. And since I'm talking about Luger and Sting, let's go into some of their history as a tag team. They actually won the Crockett Cup, the last NWA Crockett Cup, which the Crockett Cup was a tournament of tag teams, and the winner won the big cup plus $1 million. Before Billy Corgan restarted the Crockett Cup, the three winners were the Road Warriors, Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff, and Sting and Luger. Sting and Luger also won the WCW World Tag Team Championships together, while Luger was the World Television Champion. Luger and Sting had the Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn syndrome. Sometimes they were friends, sometimes they were enemies. But when they were friends and came together, boy, did they bust down teams, and they beat the Steiner brothers. They beat Harlem Heat. They have beaten teams and were a true tag team together. It was an amazing thing. So another tag team I got to mention, since we went into the WWF, we definitely got to talk about the Hart Foundation of Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. And I'm not talking about the faction, the Hart Foundation. I'm talking about the tag team managed by the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Now, for all of y'all who didn't get a chance to see this tag team and you only aware of Bret Hart's singles run, you need to go back and see a great tag team fluent together and had so much chemistry. Their finishing move, the Heart Attack, was a thing of beauty, where Jim Anvil would grab the opponent, hold them up above his head, and here come Bret with the clothesline off the ropes. A beautiful tag team move. And both of them had their spots and knew Jim Anvil Neidhart was the heavy hitter of the group. And brother, when I tell you he laid it in, his nickname Anvil was for a reason, because he hit like an anvil. And what else could be said about Bret the Hitman Hart? The excellence of execution. Man, they actually had such a great run. 2-time WWF World Tag Team Champions. They've beaten Demolition. They wrestled the Rockers. Man, They had such a great run and made the standard for tag team great. Another tag team that the Hart Foundation feuded with and also were family was the British Bulldog. If you heard of the British Bulldog, you automatically think of Davey Boy Smith. But before he was the British Bulldog, he was in a tag team of the British Bulldog with the Dynamite Kid. Oh my goodness. They were hard hitting and a great tag team. In their later years, they were managed by Captain Louis Albano. Some say Captain Lou was the greatest manager of all time. And also, they had came out of the Calgary Stampede era of wrestling, and they were all together married, that which made them related. The Bulldogs had their mascot of Matilda, the real life Bulldog. They were really put so much emphasis in great tag team wrestling. And Davey Boy Smith, the Dynamite Kid, his style has been done so much by so many different wrestlers. Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho, his nephew, that's in AEW today. And forgive me, I can't remember your young man's name, but he goes by the Dynamite Kid also. The next tag team I would love to bring up, if you think you had to be in a major promotion to be known as a great tag team, let me prove you wrong, because of the Briscoe brothers. Oh my goodness. When you talk about top tag teams, the tag team that ran ROH, there would not be an ROH without Jay and Mark. They were synonymously the greatest tag team in ROH. While they also went around the world plying their trade, they were also the Impact World Tag Team Champions. They also were the New Japan Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. They had classic feuds. Again, you can name them against such names as Bullet Club members Carl Anderson and again, forgive me, I can't remember his name, but the Good Brothers, as they're called today. Of course, we talk about their classic feud with FTR. One synonymous feud that helped put their legacy up there. Rest in peace, Jay Briscoe. Man, we lost a true legend. The Briscoe brothers were just so amazing. And give love and a shout out to Mark Briscoe for continuing carrying his brother's tradition and showing the love of great wrestling. So, with that said, I'm going to bring up another tag team that I found as a great tag team. You're talking about two singles wrestlers put together to do a dominant run, which was Rick Rude and Manny Fernandez, the Raging Bull. In the 80s, they got together and took over where the dethroned the Rock and Roll Express to have a dominant tag team title run. And that feud was so hot. And the only reason why it ended was because Rick Rude had signed with the WWF and left. And they ended up doing a phantom switch to the Rock and Roll Express. Basically, they gave the titles back to them because they didn't do the job before Rick Rude left the promotion. But they were a great tag team with their manager. I hate drawing blanks like I do, but they were an awesome tag team. And another tag team that were awesome and actually did not win any titles except for the sixth man tag team titles with Ivan Koloff were the Powers of Pain, the Barbarian, and the Warlord. They were a super tag team. A lot of people like to call them a knockoff of the Road Warriors. They were one of the few tag teams that actually put one of the members of the Road Warriors out for an amount of time. They were as strong, as vicious as the Road Warriors, but they had never won any tag team titles. But since we're sticking to teams like the Road Warriors, I cannot forget Demolition, Axe, and Smash, and later Crush. The original team of Axe and Smash were dominant. They held the tag team titles of the WWF the longest until the New Day came and broke their record. But they held the tag team titles for over a year and defended them against who's who in wrestling. The Rockers, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, Andre the Giant, and Aku. They took on the Killer Bees. They took on the Powers of Pain. They were also dominant and was just a great tag team. And hopefully this year, they will finally get into the WWE Hall of Fame if the rumors are to be true. They have been lost to the world because of their suit against the WWF and them keeping the names of Demolition. But again, just because you leave there doesn't mean you can't come back home. And they have re-signed with the WWE in legend status. So I'm really thinking they will get their Hall of Fame justice this year. Let me talk about another tag team that I personally love, and some people will say they're the greatest of all time, which we're talking about Matt and Jeff, the Hardy Boys. With Matt and Jeff, they took on the Dudley Boys and they took on Edge and Christian to make tag team relevancy in the 90s. Who has not heard of the famous TLC ladder match? Their wins are synonymous with 90s wrestling. The Hardy Boys have been the WWF Tag Team Champions. They were the WCW World Tag Team Champions. They were Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions. They were, and currently are, the TNA/Impact World Champions. They are synonymous with tag team wrestling. And of course, with mentioning them, I have to mention Edge and Christian. With Edge and Christian, you definitely know of their singles career. Edge, multi-time world champion. Christian, multi-time world champion. But together, they held the tag team titles 9 times together. They were, as they say, awesome. And now I'm gonna have to stop for a 5-second. Let me get my fingers in the camera. 5-second pose. No, your camera didn't freeze. We're giving props to Edge and Christian. And again, with those two, you got to name the most decorated tag team of all time. We are talking about the Dudley Boys of Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley. Oh my goodness. Started in the ECW. They have been ECW World Tag Team Champions, WWF World Tag Team Champion, WCW World Tag Team Champion, TNA World Tag Team Champions, NWA World Tag Team Champions, New Japan World Tag Team Champions. If you take a picture with all the titles that they've won, you would have to get at least 2 more tag teams to help hold the titles of what Bubba and Devon had won. Honestly, one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Everywhere they went, they won titles. But if titles are what you look for in the tag team, look no further than FTR. FTR, I mean, to me, are the modern day Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. They move as a cohesive unit without even having to look at each other to say anything. And here's a little fun fact for you about FTR. Did you know they were managed at one point by Tully Blanchard and was advised at one point by Arn Anderson? They are the modern day traditional tag team. Man, name a team that held 3 sets of tag team titles throughout almost year run. It was amazing. They held the IWGP, the ROH, and the AAA World Tag Team title simultaneously. No, I said it wrong. They held them all at the same time. Man, they also, and let's go into their run in the WWE. They were NXT, Raw, SmackDown World Tag Team Champions. Some of their matches against against DIY were legendary. They had great matches against oh my goodness, the AOP were great. They had one of the saddest feuds that should have been so much better was them taking on the Usos. I was so hurt and disappointed by trying to make them be a joke. And they just could not stand it. They took wrestling seriously. And once they left, they went on to prove that tag team matters in wrestling today. Again, man, I love for you your comments, your anything. Come on, hop on. The lines are open. So again, we're going to talk about another modern day tag team that some dislike. Some people call them spot monkeys. Some don't like how they are. But pound for pound, you have gotten to mention the Young Bucks, Matt and Matt and I'm about to call him Jeff, but the Hardy Boy, Nick, thank you, Jackson. They are what made tag team survive in the thin years of wrestling. They held some of the biggest titles of ROH tag team champions, New Japan heavyweight, and New Japan junior weight titles. They've held AEW tag team championship. They were phenomenal. Their feud with FTR were some of the greatest matches also. Also, they had great feuds with, oh my goodness, Nick and a lot of people don't care for them because they're known as EVPs, and people think that they just book to do spots and they don't earn their respect. They go out and bust their hump every day to put on great matches. And yes, they had some great matches against the Lucha Brothers. Man, if you've never seen a match with the Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers, before you do, go get some popcorn and work on your neck muscles, because you're going to be flying all around looking at all the great spots that they had. Some of their latter matches are self-kiss, are so tremendous. And of course, as I said, you cannot mention the Young Bucks without mentioning the Lucha Brothers. People who are just getting to see Penta in the WWE and has no idea what's coming when his brother Ray Phoenix get there. When we're talking about a great tag team, undoubtedly one of the top 10 tag teams in modern wrestling history. They're just sync together and do so much. It is such unbelievable. And again, Nick, I don't know why Nick again, but because they said, Mr. Producer said, I'm going to say it, Nick Jackson. I apologize, Nick. You're not the only one that's losing your hair either. But we're going to go real quick with a few more tag teams. But I have a caller on the line. So, Mr. Producer, if you would put him through.
Professor Bear.
What's going on, JD? How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing wonderful.
It's been a minute since we got to chat. So I saw you were live and doing a call in, so I was like, oh, I'll join them for a couple minutes.
Oh, I'm always glad to have you, my brother.
Absolutely. So you're talking
Tell
about tag
me-
teams.
I was gonna say, tell me some of your favorite tag teams.
I'm getting ready to do my Mount Rushmore, and I'm getting ready to post yours also. I'm putting it together right now. But my tag team is would have to be the Legion of Doom in terms of number one. I'm gonna have to go with them.
Definitely understand that one.
Yeah, I mean, they're the best, of all time, in my opinion. But I mean, there have been some really great tag teams. The Hardy Boys certainly come to mind. The Dudley Boys, obviously the most decorated tag team in all of wrestling history. You can't have them on without the conversation too.
Definitely.
Who are your do you have any favorite tag teams like today's wrestling?
FTR.
Yes.
And then you can't say FTR without mentioning the Usos. I mean,
Oh yeah.
the Usos and New Day. Oh my God.
Yeah.
One of the most criminally underrated matches was the Hell in a Cell between the Usos and the New Days.
Yeah, talk about popularity. The New Day really, especially with the New Day, they really got over with the crowd. They had something special.
Oh yeah, and you can see it to this day, just with them and with them doing Big E that way. I mean, it just reinvented them. When you think they are through, they always come back and reinvent themselves.
Yep. You're about in WWE. They just picked up Penta, and I think it'll only be a few more weeks. Once Ray Phoenix's contract is up with AEW, he's going to follow Penta over to AEW, so to WWE. So WWE's about to get the Lucha Brothers.
Oh yeah,
They're a heck of a tag team as well. Probably one of the best today.
yeah. Oh, what is it? ABC, the Bullet Club of geez. I can't think of his name, and he recently got hurt, and thank God he's starting to get feeling back in his lower extremities. Chris Bay.
Oh, okay.
They are a great tag team. I like. I never thought this too. For Axiom, every chance I see them, they just get better and better and better. I'm super surprised on how they have been able to keep their momentum going. I thought they were like a 3-week tag team and was done, where they teased their breakup, and they've had matches that have left me on the edge of my seat time after time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also a big fan of in AEW. That's a tag team called The Righteous.
Oh yes,
I'm a big fan of them too. I think they have something. I think they have something real special too.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, Jason. Man, tag teams, we're just all over the place, just talking about back in the day, the current product. I think one thing that, a lot of people don't realize this little great thing about tag team wrestling that I love is having the rope, so the tag partner had to hold on it, has to hold on to that rope. I love that aspect. That little detail makes such a big difference.
I think when I first saw it, because when I first really got into wrestling, I mean, I watched wrestling in the 80s and stuff, but I wasn't really into it. I was just a kid then. I didn't know what I was seeing. So when I got older in the 90s and got back into it, WCW didn't have that. And I can't remember. I think it was it WWE? They were the first ones to institute it back on TV, I think. And at first, I really didn't like it. At first, I was like, what is this? This is stupid. There's no need for that in wrestling. But the more I watched it, and then when I watched matches without the rope, it does add continuity because you see people reaching for tags halfway down the ring apron sometimes and getting the tags, but having to hold that rope gives you some continuity in your tag matches. It means that everybody's got to stand right there and hold on to it. You know, you can't get a tag from halfway down the apron like you can sometimes when it's not there.
Yeah.
So I've come to like it. I've come to like it because I think it adds continuity in the entire wrestling world.
One of my favorite things with the tag rope is when Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio were world tag team champions. And I saw this on a house show here in Knoxville. I never forget it. Ray was getting beat up and Eddie was trying to get the tag, and the ref kept telling him, hold on to the rope. You got to hold on to the rope. So Eddie took the rope, took it apart, and tied it on the rope, on the rope, and ran down to the ring. And the ref like, no, you got to be holding on to the rope. And he held up the rope. Everybody and their mama fell out laughing. Yeah.
Eddie Guerrero, especially towards the end of his career, man, he was so amazing. He could pull out just some funny stuff that you're just not expecting it. An intense match, and then all of a sudden Eddie Guerrero will do something like not like lay on the toss the belt at his opponent and then lay on the ground like he was the one that just got hit.
Exactly.
Like no one can. There's very, very few people that can actually pull that kind of comedy in wrestling. You know what I mean? There's so many wrestlers. It's drama and it's action, and there's not a whole lot of people that can actually pull out the comedy. Eddie was a master at that. R-Truth also a master at that.
Exactly.
I think it's great.
And thinking of tag teams, like I keep getting a flood of different teams I haven't brought up. What about the greatest tag team of Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas?
Yeah. I think that was a missed opportunity, WWE, there with Kurt Angle, Shelton Benjamin, and Charlie Haas. I think that group of Olympic athletes could have been a dominant stable for a long time.
Yeah, I agree with you. They wasted it.
And Shelton Benjamin's amazing. He's great today. Like I'm so watching him in AEW and stuff. I cannot believe. Oh my goodness, the Outsiders. How did I forget them?
You're right.
I just saw the comment. The Outsiders are one of my favorite WCW tag teams. Them and Harlem Heat.
Yes,
are probably my two favorite WCW tag teams. I love Hall and Nash, dude. I love their style. The smaller guy and the larger guy. I liked everything about the Outsiders. Huge Outsiders fan.
Man,
there it is. They got the picture up in the center there too. Nice. You got a nice producer on the other side of the screen. Whoever's there is doing a good job. Mike D.
Mike, what's going on?
We're just talking about Harlem Heat at the moment. I just brought up Harlem Heat, Mike D. The seven time. If it's Booker T and Stevie Ray, I believe they're 7-time.
No, actually, they actually made it 10 times.
Oh, did they make it 10? Wow.
Yes. They had the most title wins out in WCW history.
That I knew, but I thought it was only 7 because I knew.
No, they actually made 10. I remember distinctly because I remember Stevie Ray throwing up the 10 after they won the titles.
Yeah. Harlem Heat was bad, and Booker T. How about him? He went on to have an amazing career even after being a tag team wrestler.
Yeah. And then think about this too. A lot of people never got to see Stevie Ray.
There's a whole generation of people. Yeah, because when he went to WWE, Stevie Ray was already retired.
Yep.
Yeah, I bet people were confused when Stevie Ray inducted Booker into the Hall of Fame.
They're like,
people going, who's this guy?
Exactly. Oh man, I'm trying to think. There have just been so many tag teams out there, and I know it's going to happen that I'm going to forget. As soon as we end this, then a bunch of them are going to come to mind.
Yeah.
Oh, and I just thought of another one. One of my favorite, my personal favorite in TNA, the America's Most Wanted.
Oh, America's Most Wanted, absolutely. Yeah,
love them. They were just now, and I know a lot of people preferred Beer Money, Bobby Roode, and Cowboy James Storm, but for me, They could not touch America's Most Wanted.
Yeah, they were badass when they were at their peak in TNA. Yeah, they were the ones who really, I think they were the ones who really, the first ones who kind of brought attention to the TNA tag team scene, because they were charismatic and on fire too.
And then since we're talking about TNA, we got to mention LAX, the original.
Oh yeah, LAX too. Yeah,
the original Homicide and Hernandez.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love, and that's no disrespect to the second iteration of LAX. Dang, my brain goes blank again. Thanks for filling me, brain. But again, both tag teams were great. I will use the word great. But the original LAX, there was just something about them. They just had that pride and powerful. Yes. It was just something about them that I just loved to death. Yeah. Especially TNA. And again, if you mention TNA, you got to mention the Motor City Machine Guns.
Machine Guns, yeah, man. And they're in WWE now.
Exactly. I mean, already a former tag team champions.
Yeah, and how about WWE kind of rebuilding their tag division a little bit, like getting the Motor City Machine Guns and some of the other new tag teams that they've gotten in the last like 6 or 8 months. I mean, their tag division is really, really looking hot these days too.
Yeah, they have potential to do so much. Oh, then how in the world could I not remember the damn Gorillas of Destiny?
I don't think I know them.
Oh, Tama and Tonga and Mr. Producer, help me with this, please. They were in New Japan. They're part of the Bullet Club. They're currently in the Bloodline 2.0 group.
Oh, Tama. Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, the new Bloodline. Yeah, I know who you're talking about now. Yeah, they don't get the love they should get with the Tamaloa. They did in New Japan. I think they were 6-time IWGP Tag Team Champions. Wow.
They are amazing. Now, Tamaloa keeps getting injured. If he would just can bandage himself together and stay healthy,
yeah,
I think they could have an amazing run also.
Yeah, the Bloodline really is, they've got just a group of individual and tag team wrestlers that they're just amazing. They're phenomenal.
Yeah. Like I said, there's just so many different tag teams out there. And Lord, I hadn't even went back to some the early 80s, the Moondogs. And probably if you're not 70s baby, you're probably looking at the screen like, what the hell is a Moondog? Go look them up. The original Wild Samoans, yes, sir.
Yeah, Wild Samoans, yeah. And I always liked. They weren't a tag team for very long, and they only had one tag title run. But I was a fan of the Natural Disasters too.
Oh yeah, they actually had pretty good run. Let's talk about Money Inc. Ted DiBiase and IRS.
Yeah, that was and they had some good feuds too. Those two guys, DiBiase and IRS. You know, IRS is one half of the generation that brought us, you know, the Wyatt family, Bray Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas. Like that's that family. You talk about the Rocks family and the Samoan bloodline, but there's other ones out there that are quite impressive as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Hell, if we're gonna go, let's talk about the Von Erichs.
Yeah,
the combination of them were great tag teams.
6-man. That was in the time. What are your thoughts on the 6-man, like the 6-man tag divisions? Do you like the 6-man?
Yeah, I do. It just depends if you have enough people to do it correctly.
Yeah, because they tried a couple times in the 80s, and then even in the 90s, I think they tried to bring the 6-man titles back once, and they never really seemed to be able to stay. I'm really shocked that AEW still has their trios titles going. When they first debuted them, I told my buddy, I said, listen, 18 months, those belts are gone. Because I thought for sure it would just fizzle out, just like all the way the other trios championships over the years have. Because I don't think it just seems like it's harder to put on a match with 6 guys. A good match with 6 guys. That's not just a bunch of guys flying around.
Right.
Like you can with a tag match. A tag match you can really get some really great matches with. But 6-man's, I mean, how do you put on a 30 or 40-minute match with a 6-man tag? It tends to break down and, it goes crazy.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And AEW is trying their best to rebuild it. I mean, they got the, what is it? I can't even think of it. Adam Cole and
Undisputed.
Yeah,
Undisputed.
They got the Shane Taylor promotion.
Yeah.
I mean, they have 6-man, but it's kind of they've let them die off a little bit, but they're trying now to have a resurgence of it, which I like.
Yeah, I do too. I just wish my only complaint with, not that we're talking about AEW, but I just wish they had a little bit more story. They got some great characters, and I wish we had just a little bit more story. They don't need to go the way WWE does. They're different products. They offer different things, but
Right.
I'd like a little bit more of a story building from time to time, and with some of AEW's feuds.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because that's especially in the tag division, some of the greatest tag matches we see some great matches from AEW, but some of the great matches of history have been rivalries and
Yes.
build the story and it all comes to boil over at an event. So
Definitely. I mean, even though they hadn't been a tag team long, they have been super dominant. The Hurt Syndicate.
oh yeah,
And I'm personally waiting. I can't wait for them and Don Callis family to clash, because unfortunately, I know what's going to happen. They're going to tear the Don Callis family a new one.
yeah. The Freebirds are great, and they really the Freebird rule. Come on.
Exactly. What up, Mark? Oh, and then and you sit there and think about it. If it wasn't for the Freebirds, the New Day wouldn't have been anything.
Yeah.
I mean, look, and they got the longest title run of all time.
The WCW, Diamond Dallas Page with Bam Bam Bigelow and Chris Kanyon, they formed the Jersey Triad, and they also operated under the Freebird rule.
Yep. When they get to 3, most teams will bring out the Freebird rules.
Yep. And I love how it's just universally. It doesn't matter what promotion you're in or what organization you're in. Doesn't matter. It's the Freebird rule.
Exactly. Everybody says, "Oh, they're going under the Freebird rule."
Yep.
And most young people are like, "What the hell is the Freebird rule?"
Yep. You got to think about that. That's something. I mean, that's how long wrestling's been in the mainstream spotlight now. Like, it existed before the 80s and stuff, but it really didn't start getting on TV and into pop culture until the 80s, and then obviously really big into the 90s and from then on. So at this point, we're actually getting, reaching the point where we have 40, 50 years of wrestling history of it being in mainstream pop culture.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's why tag team is my favorite thing, because you have a psychology about it. The new who? There's so much of psychology that goes into tag team wrestling if it's done correctly.
Yeah. What about
Oh yes.
no, come on, no.
Look, man, look, 3 Count was hilarious. And I hate to say it, I miss seeing the 3 dudes sitting there trying to sing, which was hilarious.
It was fine for a little bit, but listen, I went to a house show, WCW house show once when they were popular. Okay, I got to see Sting live, so it was absolutely worth it. But one thing that I absolutely hated was 3 Count sang their song like 3 times at that house show. And I'm like, this is just ridiculous. This is not causing people to boo. You're making people walk out of the stadium right now. So, like, I get that they were heels and stuff, but they get them in moderation. Then people want to boo them. You shove them down people's throats, and then people are like, all right, this is enough. Get them off. We don't even want to hear them now.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw the commenter, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, man, the 4 Horsemen.
That's my favorite tag team of all time.
Yep, that's your pick on the Mount Rushmore that once we get that up this week.
It is so hard too. Like I said, it's so hard to pick who's your favorite because you have different things for different reasons. Like the Dudleys dominating everywhere they go, they get titles. That means something to me.
Yeah, it does to me too. Yeah.
And then the Road Warriors was the just first dominant tag team that came in and killed you and left.
Yeah, bodybuilders. Yeah. Oh, and the Twin Towers. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Akeem the Dream. Oh my God. When they did that, as much as I hated it, I loved it. And that was just hilarious. One of my favorite memes that I still just will pull up just to make myself laugh is Dusty Rhodes taking on the King, and he elbows him, and the King keeps doing like this.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Oh man, that's always great too. When you got something like that, and then people do the weird sells.
Oh yeah,
it's good. Like what comes to mind is oh man, what's his name? The guy who did the snake bite in WWE. I'm totally drawing a blank on.
Oh, Jake the Snake.
No. The he put the sock on his hand and did a
Santino, who came back on was there Tuesday at NXT.
Okay, yeah. I've seen people's I've seen the clip shows of people reacting to that venomous snake bite, and that is just hilarious too. That is just hysterical too. I love it.
Nobody sells like The Rock was Stone Cold.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, he would do 18 flips.
Yeah. The Rock is a great seller. It doesn't matter what he's getting. I mean, I remember he would get choke slammed and he'd bounce 10 feet up off the mat and then 2 or 3 more times or whatever. Like The Rock's always been a great performer.
Yes. And then with tag teams too, like I said earlier, you have tag teams that are regional tag teams that people never got a chance to see, but they were great tag teams. Like the Fantastics, Bobby Rogers and Bobby Fulton. They were a great tag team. Had great feuds with the Midnight Express and World Class, and then Mid-South and the NWA. They are very underrated.
Yeah. You got to remember, for every Legion of Doom, Hardy Boys, Dudley Boys that there is, there's 10 tag teams nobody's ever even heard of.
Exactly. And I mentioned the Fuller, Robert Fuller and Jimmy Golden and the Armstrong brothers.
Oh yeah.
Oh hell. The Wild Eyed Southern Boys, Tracy Smothers and Scott Armstrong.
Yeah. The Ding Dongs. I'm not familiar with the Ding Dongs.
Yes, I am.
I'm not familiar with the Ding Dongs.
They were a jobber tag team in WCW. Oh, if we're going to mention the Ding Dongs, we got to talk about the Mulkey brothers. Mulkey Mania Running Wild, brother.
I don't think I know that one either.
That's the early that was the mid 80s tag team that were jobbers that the fans just loved to death for whatever reason. And they Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express actually lost a match to them. They only won one match against them, and their popularity soared.
Yeah.
But the Midnight Express put them over big time.
And that's, that helps the younger teams. Like that's a team can get a big popularity push just by, pinning one of the other, established teams or something. If it's done right and handled right, it's a way to catapult a team up. Get them some recognition.
Definitely.
Seems like that's something the wrestling industry didn't learn until the mid to late 80s, that the loss can actually boost the popularity as much. It's sometimes even more so than a win can. Oh yeah.
And I guess too, and especially back then, territories were generally ran by the owners, and when they wrestled, it was only guys they trust, and the only people. And when you got stabbed in the back by somebody, you put the title back on yourself because you knew you could trust yourself. Man, JD, man, I appreciate you joining me.
Absolutely. Thank you, man, for having me. I love your call-in shows. It's nice to jump in and chat with you for a couple minutes.
I appreciate that, brother. We had to do something again real soon.
Absolutely. I'll keep you posted on some stuff we got coming up. Stay tuned to Mayhem Media. We got some busy couple of weeks coming up, so tune into that. Appreciate you, Mr. Bear.
Appreciate you again. So we have talked about a lot of tag teams and ones we found great, even tag teams that were jobbers that we remember fondly. It's just what made you smile, what made you fall in love with the sport. And tag team, for me, I will watch tag team over a singles match any day. And it was just something special about those tag team matches. And wow. Well, we're going to wrap it up, people. But again, I thank you for watching me. I appreciate you for calling in, for everyone who called in, and for people who didn't. Man, call in. We'll have a conversation. We'll talk about what you want to talk about. If you think what I'm talking about is boring, tell me. We'll have a nice conversation. The one thing about it, I am a professor, but the professor also knows I'm not 100% right, I'm not 100% wrong. But hey, I'm just Professor Bear. And again, make sure you check out our other shows that comes on weekly, like the Pro-Am show, the Lowdown, the B&B show, Joe Monroe show. We have so many different contents and different things that can whet your appetite and make you happy for the love of wrestling. So again, thank you once again. I am Professor Bear, and this is A Bear's Thoughts.